and we will be following the usual guidelines of only 3 people may speak or submit written comments on the same topic. Each speaker may take up to 5 minutes to address the board, and each speaker may not reflect adversely on individuals. While public participation will not be interactive during tonight's meeting, follow-up with individuals submitting public comments will occur at a later time. All comments are considered public record and are therefore subject to the Freedom of Information Act. Dr. Metzger?
Well, good evening, President Ragland, members of the board, Dr. Wise, Mr. Garside, and also anyone who's tuning in tonight from the community. We are now starting our public hearing, and the topic tonight is the district calendars for the next 2 school years. Just want to let you know there is a process that we use in the district to put together our proposed calendars, and those are the ones that are on the board agenda for tonight. Those are the proposed calendars. The process that we use is our Director of Classified Staff, Kevin Scott, starts putting together some options. He looks at various things that might impact district calendars, such as state testing. And then what we do is we send out those option calendars to our 3 associations. They include OPSI, SWIA, and SWA. And what we do is we gather input from them. And so what you're seeing tonight with the 2 proposed calendars that we're recommending and is going to be part of this public hearing for more input is the ones that have come out of those options. So what's going to happen from this point tonight, we'll have 30 days for the community to provide any input that they'd like to provide. And I'm asking that anyone who has any input, if they have no questions here tonight at this public hearing, which we will take at the end of my presentation here, but they can contact me directly at the District Service Center. Our phone number at the District Service Center is 614-801-3000, or you can contact me directly in my office at my email address, which is first name Carl dot last name Metzger at SWCSD.us. And then what I'll be doing is I'll be taking that input up to the time of that 30 days, and then we will have those options again for your consideration on the next board agenda. Tell you a little bit about the differences of the calendars that you're going to see for 21-22 versus 22-23. I guess the major difference would be the winter breaks. One's a little bit longer than the other. And you'll notice that even though the spring break is the same amount of time, they're just in different weeks. Everything else is pretty much consistent with all the calendars that we've had in the past. So for the public hearing tonight, I would open it up now to any questions anyone would have for me about the options or the proposals that are going to be also tonight a part of the regular board agenda, which then if you have questions as board members, you could ask at that time as well.
For those on the call from the community, if you just want to throw your name in the chat, we'll unmute you if we need to so that you can comment. I'd like to thank Kevin and Carl for their work with the calendars, and we appreciate that. And from the community perspective, again, the 2 calendars are attached to this board agenda so that they can see them. And we will be accepting public comment for the next 30 days. And we anticipate board action at the second meeting in January on January 25th. So that's what we would anticipate at this time. And with that said, Mr. Ragland, it's 7 o'clock and we can begin the regular meeting.
Well, thank you for attending tonight's blended virtual meeting of the Southwestern City School District Board of Education, dated December 7th, 2020. While the agenda will be visible during the meeting for those watching online, you may also follow along using the agenda posted on our website at www.swcsd.us under the Board of Education tab. Please remember that public participation will not be interactive during tonight's meeting. And please note that tonight's blended meeting may not run perfectly, but we are doing our best to keep things running smoothly as we continue down the path of blended virtual school board meetings. And with that being said, I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Mr. Caldwell.
Here.
Mr. Donofrio.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Schreiner.
Here.
Mr. Ragland.
Here. Next up, adoption of the agenda.
So move Schreiner.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Schreiner.
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. Next up, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
Moved by Johnson.
Second.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio.
Yes.
Mr. Schreiner.
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. And next up, presentations. Our first one will be the annual financial review by our treasurer, Mr. Hugh Garside.
Meredith, can you pull up not that document? I need the one with the slides. Meredith, can you move? We need the ones with the slides, not that document. There's a one,
There's a second attachment on the agenda.
not that
Actually,
one,
the first one. That's the first attachment.
not that one,
Nope.
Very-
not that one.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, it didn't like me. It wasn't clicking on the right one.
President Ragland, Vice President Johnson, members of the board. Here in the December meeting, I provide a update on the previous fiscal year's general fund and other fund revenue expenditures, and also do a little update on where we stand in Franklin County with our tax base and also our expenditure per pupil. So before I get started, I'd like to talk about the 3 reports that I bring to you every year. The first report that you're well aware of is the financial forecast, the 5-year forecast. It's a 5-year projection of where we are with our revenues, expenditures, and our cash balances based on a set of assumptions. And it's really a projection of where we think we're going to go on our fiscal roadmap into the future. The second document, which is getting wrapped up right now through our financial audit, is something called a Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR. It's a very technical document based on fiscal year 20, last fiscal year. It's about 170 pages long, very technical in nature. It's based on a modified accrual basis of accounting. And what that report is really primarily used for is when we sell bonds, it gives investors the ability to go into our finances in great detail because they're looking to invest money in our school district. Also, the rating agencies look at that. As I said earlier, in a couple of other settings, we're AA rated by both Standard & Poor's and Moody's, meaning that we're a sound fiscal and sound financial investment. And that's really what that CAFR is used for. Last but not least, tonight, I give you an annual financial report, and it's meant to be just highlighting some information of what happened last fiscal year, how we spent our funds, how we received our funds. Easy to read, just a real simple document, not very long, but gives the reader in our tax base, in our community, something that they can look at and really understand. So the first slide I want to go over is our general fund revenues by source. Just to be clear, this is general fund only. If you looked at last fiscal year, 2019 compared to 2020, we had about a 2.4% increase in our overall revenues. That was about a $6.7 million increase. Now, this is a bit misleading. If you remember what I spoke about in the 5-year forecast presentation, we had some tax dollars coming from Mount Carmel that they paid their taxes, but they're going to be tax exempt. So we'll have to refund those dollars. So really a lot of that increase was eaten up by that Mount Carmel tax payment that they made. We did have some increases in public utility personal property taxes of about $1.4 million. State funding, as you remember, we had a decrease of $3.6 million. So all said, our overall increase in revenues really isn't that 6.7 million. It was pretty much flat. We had some increases in some areas like our public utility personal tangible. Our interest earnings were good last year, and that was offset by that decrease in state funding. So really pretty flat as the numbers really pour out. Next slide. On the expenditure side, our overall expenditures were $271.5 million. If you compare those to our revenues were $289.7 million. So we're spending less than we're bringing in, which is always a good thing. It was an increase of roughly 4.9% over the previous fiscal year, $12.4 million increase. But what I always like to point out is if you look at our instruction and our instructional support, if you add those two pieces of the pie together, 73 cents of every dollar goes to instruction. Also, how we maintain our buildings and how we transport our students, that's another 13 cents right there. So a big portion is, really going to support our students. Really everything on that sheet is supporting our students. If you look at our administrative expenses, 8.6%, that's still low comparatively. I'll talk a little bit about that in the last slide, but it's still low comparatively. If you look at other school districts in the state of Ohio, we have, because of our size, we do have some economies of scale and the ability to push that administrative cost down because we do have some economies of scale. We have one superintendent. For a district of 1,300 students, we've got one superintendent. That administrative cost is a little bit higher. So we do have some economies of scale in that perspective. Next slide. So our other funds, these are special revenue funds, debt service funds, capital project funds, enterprise funds, and internal service funds. Governmental accounting requires school district, any government actually, to set aside dollar amounts in separate funds. So our special revenue funds are our federal and state grants primarily. Title I, the CARES Act funds that we're receiving, Head Start, IDEA, those are what those funds are made up of. That's about 11.7% of our overall other fund types. If you look at all these fund types, it's a little over $207 million total. So if you look at our general fund of $290 million, this is on $280 million, $290 million. This is a smaller portion when you add all these together. But they are required to be done this way. Our debt service fund made up about 50% of the expenditures this particular school year. The reason why that was inflated a little bit is because we refunded some bonds, kind of like getting refinancing your house. Rates were good, just like people refinancing their houses right now. We were able to go back to the market with a good credit rating from Standard & Poor's and Moody's, good rates for the school district, and we saved our taxpayers about $4 million in interest moving forward. So that was a really positive move we made. The reason why the expenditures are inflated a little bit is because we have to pay, the transaction is we issue new debt, so we get new proceeds, and we use those proceeds to pay off the old proceeds. So it's just inflates the numbers a bit for 1 year. So those numbers will go down next year. Capital projects funds, only 6% this fiscal year 2020. That's going to keep growing and growing as we go through this project. We have something on the agenda for tonight to approve some new building going on in our district. Hopefully that gets approved, and you'll see those dollar amounts go up next year. It'll ramp up significantly for our OFCC Segment 2 projects. Enterprise funds is about 4.7% of the all other funds. We were able to provide food for our students. We kept that going last year during the pandemic. I'd really like to take a moment to commend Lisa Hammer. She did a great job with all that. And also another thing that we do in our school district, our food service fund is not supported by the general fund. It's all self-supporting. So the revenues they receive from paying students and also a free and reduced student population, we're able to live within our means in our food service budget and stay in the black, which is not always happening in the school districts in the state of Ohio. Last but not least, we have a couple funds called internal service and agency funds that makes up about the other 27% of that. That's where our self-insurance fund dollars go, our pension obligations, those types of things where we're taking money from payroll transactions, putting it in a separate fund, and then we use those separate funds to pay our self-insurance, our claims, and also pay for our pension obligations. So it's a governmental accounting term and how we have to use that, and that's made up of 27% of those other. So last slide. And just to be clear, what we're looking at, these are Class 1 residential effective rates. Farthest to the left is our overall mills. This would be operating, PI, bond levies. It includes everything. Southwestern is 13th out of 16 school districts in Franklin County. Our effective operating mills, if you just break out our operating mills, we're currently 12th out of 16 school districts. These are based on tax year 2019, collection year 2020. So it's the most current data we have available. There will be some new information coming out from Franklin County soon. Tax bills, well, I just talked to the county auditor today. They don't think there's going to be a delay like there was last year. As it stands right now, that could change, but they think they're going to have the tax bills out in the normal sequence this next calendar year. There's some information that's not on here there was one school district that passed a levy in Franklin County. That was, we believe it's passed because the vote was pretty close. Hannah had a 10.69 mil combined levy. It was 4.26 operating, 4.93 bond, and 1.5 mil PI. So that will bump their numbers up. You can see they're a little bit above us already, but that will bump them up a little bit higher. And that's important to note because we'll probably be in that same bottom third quadrant. It just goes to show that, you know, we have at times have been accused of having a very high tax rate, but if you really look at the facts and the figures, we've been consistently in that bottom third. And we do a lot of good with the funds we receive. Just to drive that point home a little bit more, if you look at the last column on the right, that's our expenditures per pupil. These are fiscal year 2019 numbers because that's the latest information that we can get from the Ohio Department of Education. Currently 13th out of 16. If you look at the average in Franklin County, if you add those up and average those out, the average in Franklin County is $12,955 per student, expenditure per pupil. We're about 1,700 students, $1,700 less than that. If you multiply that by our enrollment figures, that's about $36 million less that we're spending than the average school district in Franklin County. Look at the state average. The state average is $12,472. we're about 1,200 less per student looking at the whole state of Ohio, and that's about $26 million less that if we were to spend in the state minimum, or not the state minimum, if we were to spend in the state average, we'd be spending about $26 million more. And if you look at our expenditures, that's about a 10% increase in expenditures for our school districts. That's significant. I think the point that I was trying to drive home there is that we are frugal with our dollars, try to provide the best education at the lowest price possible. That's been our mission. Try to be fiscally responsible and sustainable. And I think this report really shows that. It kind of brings that to light, showing that we're doing a good job with the district's finances and with our taxpayers' dollars. So I'll take any questions. I don't have really anything else. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask about this report?
No, but Mr. President, if I may,
Sure.
I just want to add some words that you just used. Fiscally responsible. Greatly appreciate and make sure that you pass that on to your staff as well. That we have a superintendent and that we have a treasurer that care about responsibly serving the students and the community, but fiscally being responsible for our taxpayer dollars. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? And as usual, fine job, sir. Thank you very much. And next up, public hearing for the school calendars. Any questions or discussions?
Yeah, just to highlight for the board, we are required now. This was the most recent change to school calendars to do the 30-day public hearing. It happened at the same time as we moved from days to hours. And so this is the opportunity, or was the opportunity, and will be for the next 30 days for public to comment on those calendars. And it has not been a significant change in the process we've used over the past. State testing, as well as has been one of the primary drivers in how we lay out our calendar, as well as we've tried to put our spring break right at the end of, or as close to the end of the third quarter that as possible to make sense. And those are two of the pieces that we've had feedback historically on that people appreciate, and we've tried to build into the calendar options that are presented tonight.
And next up, board reports, none. Public participation relative to the agenda items. None. Next up, legislative report, Mr. Lee Schreiner.
Thank you, Mr. President. This will be the final legislative report of 2020, and I will highlight a few. And I'm just going to tell you, please be patient with me because this is lame duck time, a very busy time at the State House. I am only going to highlight a few major things that are happening. The total report will be 7 pages, so that will be attached. First of all, I would like to say changes to eligibility for Ed Choice Voucher Program in lame duck session. Governor Mike DeWine signed Senate Bill 89, a bill that changes the student eligibility criteria for the educational choice, Ed Choice Voucher Program. The new criteria, which were amended in the bill during a conference committee, requires 2 factors in order for a student to be eligible. First, the school building must be in the lowest 20% of buildings based upon the performance index ratings for the 2017-18 and 2018-19 school years. Secondly, the school building is operated by a school district that has an enrollment of at least 20% Title I eligible students. Based upon those 2 factors, the number of eligible school buildings for performance-based vouchers for the 2021-22 school year would be 473. This is a reduction, the change, from the 1,227 school buildings that were eligible on the list for fiscal year 2021. The bill also increases the poverty threshold from 200% to 250% for the income-based voucher program eligibility. Next, open meeting flexibility extended before the deadline expires. And I'm sure that Mrs. Nekoloff spoke to this prior to the meeting tonight, that Governor DeWine signed House Bill 404 that will extend the ability of public bodies, including boards of education, to hold and attend meetings or hearings via electronic technology. The bill was signed with an emergency clause that went into effect immediately upon DeWine's signature on November 23rd, 2020. The language in House Bill 197 that originally provided this flexibility was set to expire on December 1st, 2020. The new deadline provided in House Bill 404 extends this flexibility to July 1st, 2021. And finally, and most importantly, Fair School Funding Plan. The Ohio House passed House Bill 305 by a vote of 87 to 9. This bill creates a new school funding formula. The House Finance Committee amended the bill on Tuesday in November to make several changes, including transportation modifications and revamping the makeup of the School Funding Oversight Commission, which, by the way, we pushed, and revamping that makeup to now include 3 school board members. Jennifer Hogue, OSBA's Director of Legislative Services, provided proponent testimony, which can be accessed on that website. Dr. Howard Fleeter, consultant for the Ohio Education Policy Institute, provided interested party testimony. That bill was sent to the Senate. This is one of the most important and critical weeks we have ever seen in education. The House of Representatives in Ohio passed House Bill 305, the Fair School Funding Plan, by an 87-8 vote. The plan is now teed up for action by the Senate and its companion bill, Senate Bill 376. The Senate has just several days left to pass Senate Bill 376, which defines and funds an adequate and equitable education for all students and answers the 23-year-old DeRolf litigation. Senate Finance Committee meeting has been scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday, December 8th at 1:30 p.m. Glaringly absent from the agenda is testimony on Senate Bill 376, indicating that the Senate leadership has no intention of addressing the Fair School Funding Plan before they leave for the holiday break, thus thwarting 3 years of work by the Cupp-Patterson Work Group and the overwhelming support of the House of Representatives for a definable, defensible school funding plan. I implore all public school taxpayers to reach out to their senator as soon as possible to ask movement for this important plan. Many other committees in the House and Senate have met during November and are finishing up before the winter break. I will include all of those in the report that I have now just concluded. Thank you, Mr. President.
And thank you, sir. And next up, student and staff achievement, Mr. Anthony Caldwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, we have a lot of really great achievements to share about our Southwestern City School community. First, I'd like to start with the 2020 Grove City Arts in the Alley Youth Art Competition. As all of you know, we'd love to be there in person to see all these great exhibits, but this year, unfortunately, we could not be. But our Southwestern City School students did a really amazing job. I'm going to start in reverse order. Best of Show for mixed media painting, Amira Jakil from Central Crossing High School for Skies Array. Third place for photography, Marissa Messer from Franklin Heights High School for Fireworks. Second place in photography, Isabel Compton from Franklin Heights High School for Bubbles. First place in 2D visual art, we had Anna Sinyuk from Central Crossing High School for Portrait of Tom Hiddleston. And first place for color photography, Alina I'm going to get this name wrong, Sheen, from Central Crossing High School for Floating Faith. All of these entries can be found on the Grove City Chamber of Commerce website at gcchamber.org. Just click on the Arts in the Alley link and go to the youth art section. We'll also include that for everyone. Now let's talk about how our students and our staff are bringing our community together while practicing good social distancing with our Southwestern City School District Gives Back achievements. For Veterans Day, Darby Woods Elementary School organized a collection of needed items and letters which were sent to soldiers. The PTA sponsored a Holiday Angel program, adopting 9 students from 5 different families that were in need of some assistance during the holidays. At Finland Elementary, they donated 360 items to the White Christmas Food Drive. At Prairie Lincoln Elementary School, they collected food items to pack into Thanksgiving meals for families in need, and staff members are supporting several families this holiday season to help provide toys, gifts, clothing, and meals to families in their community. Franklin Woods Intermediate School is organizing 100 holiday meals for their families in need, and they've partnered with a local church to do even more. Staff helped organize and deliver these, staff are helping organize and delivering these meals on December 17th and 18th, while also providing drive-through service for families as well. The staff at Galloway Ridge Intermediate School is providing holiday help to 8 families. And at Finland Middle School, the staff, along with community partners, adopted 15 families for Thanksgiving. The families received 1 or 2 turkeys, depending on their family size, 2 boxes of mashed potatoes, a box of stuffing, 3 cans of corn, 2 cans of green beans, a can of yams, and a jar of gravy. And I feel like there should be a partridge in a pear tree at the end of that. The Central Crossing High School Key Club collected more than 2,300 food items for its annual food drive. And the Grove City High School Student Council held its annual canned food drive last Saturday for families across the Grove City area, and they collected more than 2,200 canned food items. And last but certainly not least, the Westland High School Key Club made more than 30 blankets for the Meals on Wheels program. And the students are also sending birthday cards and positive message posters to residents and local nursing facilities, which we all know that those residents will really appreciate those during this time especially. More than 30 Key Club members donated their time to these projects. So that concludes tonight's Student and Staff Achievement Report.
And thank you very much, sir. It's very good. Next up, Fiscal and Operation Management, Mr. Lee Schreiner.
Thank you, President Ragland. This evening, we have 9 action items on the agenda under Fiscal and Operational Management. First of all, revised permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2020-21. Exhibit X1, it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the revised permanent appropriations. Secondly, investments and financial statements for November 2020. Exhibit X2 and X3, it's recommended that in accordance with section 135.14 of the Ohio Revised Code, the Board of Education approve November investments, see Exhibit X2, and cash position report for the month of November 2020, Exhibit X3, as submitted. Total investments, $377,836,983.75. Interest earnings month to date, $324,121.25. Interest earnings year to date, $1,393,375.26, with interest rates of 0.010 to 1.710%. Third, payment of bills, Exhibit X4. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve payment of bills according to the list of checks for the month of November 2020. Fourth, donations, Exhibit X5, total donations of $49,477. Thanks as always to those folks that contribute to our district. It's very much appreciated. Fifth, authorization to pay bills in accordance with section 5705.41 Ohio Revised Code, Exhibit X6. It's recommended that the Board of Education authorize the treasurer to pay bills for November, which were not processed in accordance with section 5705.41 of Ohio Revised Code. Sixth, transfers. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the transfers as presented, Exhibit X7. The transfers are necessary to meet the sinking fund requirement for the 2010 qualified school construction bonds and to fund the school enhancement and professional development accounts as prescribed within the collective bargaining agreements. Seventh, set date and time for tax budget hearing and organizational meeting. It is recommended that the Board of Education set the date and time for the tax budget hearing for fiscal year 2021-22 at 6:45 p.m. on Monday, January 4th, 2021, with the organizational meeting immediately following. 8, appoint President Pro Tem for organizational meeting. It's recommended that the Board of Education appoint Robert Ragland Sr. as President Pro Tem for the organizational meeting to be held Monday, January 4th, 2021. The President Pro Tem will lead the organizational meeting until the Board of Education elects a new president at that time. And 9th, resolution to endorse the Fair School Funding Plan, which you heard me talk about earlier, House Bill 305. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution to endorse the Fair School Funding Plan as presented, and I see that it's pulled up right now. After receiving and reviewing these items for action, I move them for passage at this time.
Second.
Second by David.
Thank you.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Ragland.
Yes. And next up, policy, Vice President Kathy Johnson.
Thank you, President Ragland. This evening, we have 3 items for action under policy. First, we have 18 new policies. Next are, 3 new policies, 18 revised policies, and finally, 2 replacement policies. They're all actually contained in the agenda in their complete form. Having reviewed these, I move them for passage.
Second.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. And next up, curriculum, Mr. Anthony Caldwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, we're going to have our first reading of our Science K through 12 course of study. I just want to pause and say thank you to all of our dedicated teachers. They're acknowledged in the document that's available on the agenda tonight. Feel free to reach out to them and thank them, but our teachers really did a great job of working with our curriculum department to develop these materials. Having reviewed the attached document, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first reading of the science course of study grades K through 12 as attached.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. And next up, facilities and development, Mr. David Donofrio.
Thank you, President Ragland, and happy holidays. On tonight's agenda for facilities development, we have 2 exciting items for consideration. First, a resolution authorizing and approving the design development phase submission for the Jackson Middle School as presented by Shore Architects Incorporated and Community Design Alliance. And second, approval of guaranteed maximum price amendments to the construction manager and risk agreements with Summit Construction Company for the new Pleasant View and Norton Middle Schools, and with Rushili Construction Company Incorporated for the new Brook Park and Finland Middle Schools. Having reviewed these items, I recommend their passage and move to do so at this time.
Second, Shriner.
Mr. Donofrio.
Yes.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes,
Ragland.
Yes. And next up, we have Personnel, Vice President Kathy Johnson.
thank you. On the board agenda this evening are 7 personnel items involving 60 persons. They include 3 certificated resignations, 2 certificated changes in employment status, 36 certificated employments, 4 classified resignations, 7 classified changes in employment status, 7 classified employments, and 1 message of condolence for deceased staff member. Ricky Vaughn served as an intervention specialist at Central Crossing High School for 11 years and then spent the last 2 years at Westland High School. Mr. Vaughn also was the head coach at Central Crossing High School his first 2 years in the district and has been an assistant football coach the past 6 years, 2 years each at Franklin Heights, Grove City, and Westland. Having reviewed these items, I move them for passage.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Johnson,
Yes,
Caldwell,
Yes.
Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Ragland.
Yes. And next up, public participation to non-agenda items are none. And now I need a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
There we go.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Same to you.
Johnson,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Ragland.
Yes. And happy holidays. And don't forget to wear your mask, wash your hands, and maintain social distance.